All right, so we've all heard the saying time is precious, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about just how limited our time actually is?
It's something we often avoid thinking about, isn't it?
Exactly. We kind of just go through life assuming we have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But today, we're going to take a deep dive into this idea of 4,000 weeks.
4,000 weeks.
Yep, that's right. Turns out that's the average human lifespan. Kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And I think that's what Oliver Burkeman's book, 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals, is all about, really getting us to grapple with that reality.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, we're using Berkman's book as our guide to explore how we can make the absolute most of those 4,000 weeks. Now, it's not about cramming in more activities or becoming some kind of productivity robot.
Right. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. The book starts with this really powerful concept of accepting our limitations, which might sound a bit counterintuitive when you think about time management.
It does, yeah. You'd think it would be all about maximizing and squeezing every last drop out of our time. But Berkman actually suggests that accepting our finite time is the first step to actually using it wisely.
Okay, so how does that work? How does accepting that we have limited time help us manage it better?
Well, it starts by acknowledging that we can't do everything. I mean, think about it. There are so many options available to us in every aspect of life these days. Careers, hobbies, relationships, travel, you name it. It's almost like we're drowning in possibilities.
It's the whole paradox of choice thing, right?
Precisely. And all those choices can be incredibly overwhelming. We end up spending so much time just trying to decide what to do that we actually end up doing less.
Okay, so I can see how accepting that we can't possibly experience everything could be freeing in a way. It kind of takes the pressure off, right?
Exactly. And it allows us to focus our energy on what truly matters to us. Berkman actually argues that a lot of our stress comes from this constant striving to do more, achieve more, be more.
It's like we're on this treadmill of productivity that never stops.
Right. We feel like we should be constantly busy checking things off our to-do lists, but are we really focusing on the things that bring us joy and meaning?
And that's where the idea of prioritizing meaningful activities over just being busy comes in.
Right, exactly. Berkman even encourages embracing what might be considered unproductive activities, like taking walks, daydreaming, pursuing hobbies.
You mean like those things we often feel guilty about doing because they're not directly contributing to our work or some goal.
Exactly. But those things are actually crucial for our well-being and creativity. They help us recharge and connect with ourselves. In fact, there was a study mentioned in the book that found people who took regular breaks were actually more productive overall.
It sounds counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it. If you're constantly pushing yourself without any downtime, you're bound to burn out eventually. You need to step back to leap forward.
Yep. Exactly. And this connects really well with another key theme in the book: the importance of being present. Berkman argues that dwelling on the past or worrying about the future prevents us from fully experiencing the present moment.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all had those moments where we're so caught up in our thoughts that we completely miss what's happening right in front of us. Have you ever, completely zoned out during a conversation because you were worrying about something completely unrelated?
Oh, absolutely. Happens to me all the time. It's a constant challenge, especially with all the distractions we face these days.
Right. Like our phones are constantly buzzing. There's always something vying for our attention.
It takes real effort to cultivate presence, to be mindful and resist those distractions. But the rewards are huge. When you're fully present, you appreciate things more, you connect more deeply with others, and you experience life more vividly.
Makes sense. And it's not just about being present in the moment. It's also about letting go of control, right?
Yeah, that's another big theme in the book. Berkman points out that trying to control every aspect of our lives is a recipe for frustration and disappointment.
Because we can't actually control most things,
Right.
right? Like you can plan your day down to the minute, but then, your car breaks down or your kid gets sick and suddenly everything's thrown off.
Exactly. And that's where learning to embrace uncertainty comes in. It's not about being passive. It's about focusing on what we can control, our actions and our responses, and letting go of the things we can't.
So it's about accepting that things won't always go according to plan, but that's okay.
Right. And I think that acceptance ties in nicely with another important concept that Berkman emphasizes: patience.
Ah, patience. That's something I definitely struggle with. We live in such a fast-paced world. Everything's about instant gratification.
I know, it's everywhere you look, right? But Berkman reminds us that meaningful things often take time to develop. Building a skill, nurturing a relationship, achieving a long-term goal, it all requires patience and a willingness to embrace the journey, not just the destination.
It's about playing the long game. So how do we actually cultivate more patience in a world that's constantly telling us to hurry up?
Well, it's a process for sure. It's about shifting our mindset away from this constant need for speed and efficiency. Learning to appreciate the small steps, the gradual progress, the little moments along the way.
It's about finding joy in the process itself, not just the end result.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really interesting perspective from the book, the idea of reframing success.
Oh, yeah. What was Berkman's take on that?
Well, he challenges this traditional definition of success as, climbing the corporate ladder, accumulating wealth, or achieving some external measure of accomplishment. He suggests that true success is about aligning your actions with your values. It's about asking yourself, am I spending my time on what truly matters to me?
It's not about checking off the most boxes, but about making sure you're checking off the right boxes.
Exactly. And that's going to look different for everyone. It's about defining your own version of success based on what's truly important to you.
So practically speaking, if someone wants to start living more intentionally and making the most of their 4,000 weeks, what are some key takeaways from the book?
Berkman offers some really concrete advice. Things like prioritizing meaningful work, learning to say no more often, letting go of the need for perfection, and of course, cultivating patience.
So it's really about making conscious choices about how we spend our time, aligning our actions with our values, and accepting that we can't do it all.
Exactly. It's about embracing our limitations and using them as a springboard for a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the idea of 4,000 weeks, I want to leave you with this thought. If you knew you only had a limited amount of time left, what one thing would you focus on doing differently? It's a powerful question to consider as you navigate your own 4,000 weeks.